Donald Trump is doing a full frontal assault, hostile takeover of Congress by way of its library. Yes, the Library of Congress matters. It's a repository of things that matter to us in books, in movies, in other mediums, in podcasts. It also is the research arm for Congress, and it is under the Congressional Article 3 branch of our United States. But Donald Trump wants to do a hostile takeover. He fired the first African-American to ever be the head of the Library of Congress, appointed by Obama. She was doing a great job. She had a year left on her term, on her clock, and he fired her. Then tried to replace her with his number 2 at the Department of Justice, his former criminal defense lawyer. Doesn't he have a day job, like screwing around with our constitutional republic? Now he's going to screw around with Congress and its library for research. Congress is up in arms. Popok is up in arms, and I cover it on Popok Live, a new podcast on Tuesday nights on the Midas Touch Network. And here's a clip. So, Library of Congress, very important. And Donald Trump's decided he's going to take it over. It is, since 1800, the place to support congressional lawmaking. It's no other way to put it. It sits in the legislative branch, not the executive branch. The Library of Congress is headed by the head librarian. And Donald Trump just decided, as he's done with every department head, every agency head, regardless of whether it's executive or legislative branch, he fired her. She was 9 years into her 10-year Obama-appointed position. She's a former educator from Chicago, and she's responsible for the archive section of the Library of Congress, and of course the research arm, which helps Congress do its job. And Donald Trump wants to take it over. So not only did he fire her, which maybe he's allowed to do, and he can also appoint somebody else for permanent confirmation through the Senate. And Congress having its own powers, separate and equal. But what he can't do is send down his pit bull, Todd Blanche, his criminal defense lawyer, his number 2 in the Department of Justice, to go be the acting interim head of the Library of Congress with a bunch of goons from the Department of Justice. And they were met with resistance from the Department of Justice, from the librarians, who all rallied together, called the Capitol Police, and they were able to throw the bastards out and repel the barbarians at the gate, at the Copyright Office too, because the Copyright Office sits under the Library of Congress. And so they repelled those attacks. And now MAGA Congress and MAGA senators like Thune, John Thune is the head of the Senate. He came out and said, well, we got to take a look at this. The congressional equities is very important. See, they do know the word equities. They just don't like it in the phrase diversity, equity, and inclusion. But what he's talking about in equities is we're a co-equal branch of government. It's our library. It's right there in the title. You can't take it over. You can't get your this is my interpretation. You can't get your sticky little mitts on our research, on our private proprietary research that goes into our co-equal branch of government. And so now we're going to have a fight. It's going to end up in a lawsuit. It's going to be filed, I'm sure, if not today, sometime tomorrow. There's going to be a lawsuit about the takeover of the Library of Congress and Donald Trump breaching separation of powers and statutes related to it. And we're here for it. And we're going to continue to follow it. And then lastly, I want to do a quick primer about the Thursday Supreme Court hearing. I know it starts early for a lot of people because we have a global audience, 10 a.m. We'll have it up after that as a video. But if you can join us in the live chat, we had about 10,000 people the last time. Just join us for the chat. And we have a way to do it on Legal AF where when one of the justices is speaking, boom, 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 we can put up their photo, especially when it's not obvious who's speaking. Some of the voices, as they're getting older, are starting to merge into one voice. But we're able to pick out who it is. And then I do commentary about it. And then we'll do Dina Dahl in the beginning, and we'll do Dina Dahl at the end with some commentary. It'll be very interesting. Watching oral arguments is a great teachable moment for our democracy. John Roberts just gave yet another interview. We've had it's just, they're still in session. The Supreme Court justices are just standing up against Donald Trump in their own way. Rule of law is under attack. Judiciary is under attack. These are Supreme Court justices in the last month. Lawyers are under attack. We're under attack. Of course, they never named Donald Trump by name, but we all know, who they're talking about. And John Roberts just said at Georgetown University in an interview, he just said a version of we need to teach more civics classes to kids in school because they don't understand what the rule of law is about. I think he's talking to Donald Trump. We have the only president in history that literally does not understand how the Constitution works or how the separation of powers work or what his job is. I never thought I would say that. It didn't matter who the president was before Trump twice. I always respected the institution of the office of the presidency, regardless of my politics. I might have to bite my tongue and bite my lip before I had a podcast for 4 years, like if it was George W. Bush or something. But I never saw that he or that person dishonored the office the way that Donald Trump does, which he just drops his pants every day and takes a big dump on the American people and on the Resolute desk almost every day, almost every day. And so this hearing is going to be very, very important. It is. I know people are like, there's Popok, you told us there's 13 or 14 different emergency applications to the United States Supreme Court. There are. And you've told us there's other oral arguments that have happened already. There have. Then how can you tell us that this is the first oral argument about something substantive in the Trump administration? Because it is. Because in the emergency applications, there are no oral arguments. Because the prior oral arguments were about stuff during the Biden administration, with the Trump administration taking a position here or there. This is the first one out of the 200 lawsuits against Donald Trump where the Supreme Court is actually going to make a decision. Now, I'm not sure it's about birthright citizenship, which is Donald Trump trying to rip the beating heart of birthright citizenship out of the 14th Amendment and declare by an executive order that you are not a citizen, even though you were born here. I'm not sure it's that. I think they're going to be focusing, based on the way that the question was framed, on the nationwide injunction power of a federal judge. Either way, we need to watch this and see how, now that they're all back together wearing the black robes and on the bench, how they're going to sort through this. They've now watched 120 days or whatever it is of Donald Trump bashing them, bashing the federal judiciary, putting his middle finger up, trolling them, teasing them, tormenting them. And now he needs them at the Supreme Court. So, and I've said it before, watch Amy Coney Barrett and how she handles this hearing. The last oral argument, she wasn't there. We only had 8 because it was about a religious issue that she was involved with in the past or knew, one of the advocates. She's back. It's her court because she's the right of center. We know that Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Alito, and Thomas are going to be against nationwide injunctions by way of federal courts. Gorsuch has written about it. Roberts is in the center, but he's feckless. And Amy Coney Barrett is, it's quickly becoming her court because she rules more in the majority than anybody else. She makes the majority. Whereas Ketanji Brown Jackson, I am sure Sotomayor and Kagan are going to rule that a judge has the right, depending upon the breach that's been alleged, the statutory violation or the constitutional violation, to issue a nationwide injunction. What does Amy Coney Barrett think? You'll know it, and I'll comment on it during the oral argument. Really, really important. It is officially the last oral argument of this term. We are delayed in getting, by now, we normally have about 20 or 30 more opinions. The reason we don't have more opinions, official 30, 40, 100-page opinions by the United States Supreme Court on the 60 or 70 cases they handled this term that didn't have Donald Trump's name on it, is because they're delayed with these 13 applications by Donald Trump, and it has slowed them to a crawl to do their regular business of the court. Welcome back. I got some great news. Just came out literally as I was recording. YouTube just started ranking podcasts. This is crazy. They never did it before. Spotify did it. Apple did it. Some other ones did it. But YouTube said, we got podcasts. We got 1 billion people a day that listen to podcasts on YouTube. We should be ranking. And they did their first inaugural weekly rank of 100 of the top podcasts. And the Midas Touch Network and Legal AF placed 3 in the top 100. That is a function and a compliment of our audience and the loyalty of our audience and the growth of our audience. Midas Touch number 5, Legal AF, the podcast number 64. This is in the world in podcast. And a little known show called Popok's Intersection here on the Legal AF YouTube channel. The Legal AF YouTube channel hit number 90 in the world. It's crazy. It's all because of you. We're humbled by it. We appreciate you being here. Come over to Popok Live. New podcast Tuesday nights on the Midas Touch Network, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Until my next recording, my next contribution of all things Legal AF, It's Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.